from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the program. It's Monday night, we're live, we're national, and lots to discuss. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys. I'm looking forward to speaking with our guests, and a couple of thoughts I want to share with you, because something I've come to realize over the weekend with this now second attempted assassination attempt of Donald Trump is that MAGA, the Make America Great Again movement, is a threat to domestic corruption. And, of course, to the deep state pendejos that keep trying to kill this guy. But that's really what it is. MAGA threatens their existence because they thrive on corruption. If you think about it, MAGA is a threat to a body politic that's now been awakened by the truth. MAGA is a threat to the government gangsters, as Kash Patel puts it, that collude against who? You, me, we the people. MAGA is a threat to gender norms. MAGA is a threat to income tax. MAGA is a threat to continued wars and conflicts. MAGA is a threat to the left's scheme to prostitute the term climate change to manipulate people into doing their Green New Deal economic agenda. MAGA is also a threat to the open borders politicians that are importing the next generation of sex slaves, indentured servants, and voters right here in the United States. MAGA is a threat to an American people so economically prosperous that they don't have to rely on Uncle Sam for their provision. MAGA threatens the fact that there's people that ultimately believe their providence comes from God and in the health God's given us to provide for our own families. MAGA threatens that existence on government, that worship at the altar of big government, socialism, communism, that thinking, that ideology. MAGA is a threat to domestic corruption. And there's a lot of questions we've got here, right? Trump is golfing, some Looney Tunes, some wacko. And again, you can't just say because he shot Trump and I like Trump, or he tried to shoot Trump, or whatever the case was. No, I'm saying he's a weirdo because he's a weirdo. Right? Have you seen the photo of this guy? He's got half his hair dyed blue in one picture. I mean, it's just, maybe it was a bad day for him when they took that picture, but man, this guy's a weirdo. But he was in court today. We have a clip from NBC News correspondent Catherine Park. Check this out.
We do know it is reportable that he is facing 2 federal criminal charges, one of which includes a possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, which carries a maximum penalty of 15 years in prison, carries a $250,000 fine, 3 years of supervised release. The second charge that he is facing, possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number, that carries a maximum 5 years in prison, $250,000 fine, and 3 years supervised release. He came into court pretty comfortable, relaxed, and calm. He is now working with a public defender. The judge asked him a couple of questions about just his earnings. He says he makes about $3,000 a month. He has no money to his name. He has no real estate. He does own 2 trucks in Hawaii worth about $1,000 each. We also learned that he has a younger son who is 25 years old. But once again, he has a public defender. We're also learning that his next hearing, the next time we will see him in court, will be a bond hearing in the next 5 days, a pretrial detention hearing, and that is set for Monday, September 23rd.
Again, that's Catherine Clark, NBC News. Reporting on the suspect, Ryan Routh, or Ruth, depending on your pronunciation. A real whack job. And I mean, there's so many questions here. How did this guy get so close? How did he know where Trump was going to be? lots of questions so far, no real answers. But the Secret Service and the Sheriff's Office had a press conference where they weighed in. This is Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. Check this out.
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery. So when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right. And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the city president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter.
Now, this guy, interesting, right? His response is, well, you know, since Trump's not the real president, we can't give him the same protection. I don't even know if that was the question. The question was, how does somebody get, if you are a Secret Service protectee, and again, I'm not a cop, I'm not a Secret Service guy, I don't play one on TV or radio, but their whole point is to protect these people's lives. If there was a threat on this man's life on July 13th, and he's still running for president, and after the list I just read you of things that he and his movement threaten, which is a lot, then it's safe to assume that there's an active threat against him because we know that Iran wants to kill him. We also know that this whack job, Brian Routh, actually wrote a book and said that he wanted Iran to please assassinate Trump. I mean, just crazy stuff. This is a guy with a home in Hawaii, registered to vote in North Carolina, a Biden bumper sticker, Harris bumper sticker on his car. Just your run-of-the-mill Looney Tune. He's pretty much exclusively donated to Democrats for his political donations. And he's been to Ukraine to fight in their foreign service. I mean, just really interesting stuff. And we'll get into that in a moment, because to me, it doesn't sound like anybody I know, right? I really don't know anybody who's been out to Ukraine to fight on behalf. Listen, I want Ukraine to win. I want Ukraine to be unmolested by Putin. But I'm not going to go and fight in Ukraine. Unbelievable, this stuff. But anyway, Sheriff Bradshaw says, well, you know, because he's not the sitting... So what does that mean? Because he's not the sitting president that, you know, we're just going to give him bare bones protection even though there was just a threat on this guy? Nobody tried to kill Biden. Nobody's trying to kill Harris. Just fascinating, the thinking here. And again, maybe if you're a law enforcement person, you hear that and you go, it makes sense. I'm not, so it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, you know, I mean, just imagine you call the cops and they tell you, well, because, you know, you're not the mayor or, you know, the sitting mayor, we can't really, you know, provide the level of protection that you think you'd want. That's kind of insane to me when somebody's actively trying to kill you, right? Anyway, Eric Prince, I don't know if you remember Eric Prince, but he's a former Navy SEAL, former CEO of a private army called Blackwater. And he was on Real America's Voice doing an interview, and we got a clip of it, and makes a lot of interesting points and raises a lot of very interesting questions. Listen to this.
There's some indication that shows both the Butler shooter and this guy yesterday both appeared in BlackRock TV commercials. The statistical likelihood of that being random is impossible. So that's why I got animated last night about how Florida needs to take the lead in this investigation, because I just don't see the federal government. I don't see the FBI doing any kind of adequate job. The Miami field office, the head agent there, was instructed to scrub all his social media before he was appointed there because he was so virulently anti-Trump. This is the same field office that raided Mar-a-Lago on that bogus documents case. So if we think that they're going to be suddenly truth-seeking, the same guys that indicted him on complete nonsense charges, we're kidding ourselves. And so I really want Florida to flex up and assert, I mean, look, this was attempted murder in the state of Florida. It's not just a federal crime, that's a state crime. And I think the feds have lost any and all credibility on this. We don't know anything more about the Butler shooter. The Dems have tried to, the media has just tried to memory hole that as if something that doesn't exist. And now we have two assassination attempts on the candidate for president, unprecedented in American history. these threads have to be unspiraled, unwound, and the truth must come out because, the left with their over-the-top, vitriolic, super toxic language saying Trump must be eliminated, he's a threat to democracy, he's Hitler, 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 that gives license to every crazy left-wing nut job to try to go after him. And this guy had his final firing position. He was there for 12 hours with the ballistic plates against the fence trying to give himself some cover from counter snipers. And he had his GoPro posted there, mounted, ready, because he was trophy hunting. He was there to be the hero of the left, to say, I killed Donald Trump. I am the savior of democracy.
That, of course, again, former Navy SEAL, former CEO of a private army called Blackwater. And Eric Prince brings up a lot of interesting points. We have an FBI or I should say a Secret Service, just all of it. The federal law enforcement establishment that's there was problematic, and we've seen that in the past. How do we get to this place? How do we get to this place where we have this guy who's all over the place, voted in the North Carolina primary, lives in Hawaii, he's out in Ukraine, he's kind of all over the place. And when I see things like that, I think to myself, how, even if you have a very flexible job, how do you do it? How do you be in all these places and do all these things? And how do you fund all this stuff? And how do you buy this? Did he save all his money? Is he being funded? Is he part of a bigger syndicate? To me, it honestly sounds like this guy is some sort of weird type of spy, right? Or at one point was a spy. Maybe I'm wrong. That's why I want to bring in one of the pros, Tony Shaffer, former spy himself, to give us the scoop on this. We're going to connect with Tony Shaffer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, right after this.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I've been dealing with Russia for my entire life. We had one period where it was okay, but now we've let it slip back into terrorism. So it's just, the world needs to respond. Why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior.
That's Ryan Routh. He is the whack job that, camped out for 12 hours trying to take a shot at Trump on the golf course. And this is a guy, he's talking about Russia. He's talking about being involved overseas. And he did an interview with an outlet called Semaphore. I want you to listen to a clip of this.
Officials in Kyiv simply aren't interested in recruiting them.
Ukraine is reluctant to be cooperative.
That's Ryan Ruth, a U.S. citizen who set up the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine to help connect foreigners to Ukrainian military units.
Now I'm talking to over 100 soldiers every day, and pretty much everybody, all of my contacts in Ukraine, they were adamant and pretty much yelled at me every time that I suggested that we bring in Afghans.
The Ukrainian government didn't respond to our request for comment, but a source close to the officials in Kyiv told Semaphore that their top concern is the question of loyalty in the thick fog of war.
The biggest thing is spies. They're afraid that anybody and everybody is a Russian spy.
The biggest thing is spies. They're afraid everybody's a Russian spy. I don't know who this guy might be spying for, but the type of lifestyle he lives leads me to believe he's a spy. He's a wannabe spy. He's somehow related to some sort of NatSec intelligence, something, somehow. How do you pull this off otherwise? I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off on this, but I want to bring in one of the pros. Tony Shaffer is former spy chief and is currently senior fellow and president of Project Sentinel. Tony Shaffer, welcome back, brother.
Hey, Rich, always enjoy our conversation, so thanks for having me.
My pleasure, sir. So let's dig into this. You know a whole lot about this stuff. Does this guy seem like a spook to you?
Well, let me remind you and the audience of what we know so far, and you just pointed it out. Gee, how does this guy fly around like he's, Barbara Streisand? Let's just take Barbara Streisand, in her private jet. He flies to Ukraine, sets up this volunteer center. He's trying to recruit Afghan fighters to go fight on behalf of Ukraine, and he's doing things with Taiwan. And then, oh, by the way, then he decides to move from North Carolina to Hawaii. And you and I both know Hawaii ain't a cheap place, right?
No, not at all.
Come on. And I have a former, my former deputy friend of mine lives there now, and man, you met her, Tanya. She's over there, and man, it's expensive. Mm-hmm. So that's alerting behavior just to begin with. Then let's take his criminal record. That's where it really gets interesting. Now, Rich, how many guys do you know? I mean, I don't know many felons. You probably don't either. But how many felons have you heard of? This guy has 4 felony convictions, one of which has to do with him having a machine gun, not an AR, a machine gun.
They called it a weapon of mass destruction?
Weapon of mass destruction. He held up for 3 hours in his roofing business, in a Kate situation. He's been convicted of theft and a dozen other misdemeanors and never spent a day in jail. How is that possible? Well, let me tell you how it's possible. It's possible because he's cooperating with the feds. That's how that happens. And anybody else who has a record like this would have at least been in the pen for 10 to 15 years. Instead, this guy seems to be, I don't know, to use to coin a phrase, a controlled asset of some sort. And that opens a whole other door of questions that we have to start looking into.
Former Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, you're speaking my language here, because I'm thinking the same thing. How do you, I'll bring it to the streets, right? I grew up in Brooklyn, and I've seen this stuff, even in Jersey. There were guys when I was in high school, some of my friends that would buy weed from this local drug dealer or whatever, and then we'd find out that these guys got robbed, the drug dealers. So there were people out there that had a whole industry of robbing drug dealers. Later on in life, we find out the only reason they were allowed to do that is because they were cooperating with the feds. And the feds allowed them to go, every time they got caught, they'd say, oh, I'm with the feds. And they'd get released, and they'd go rob more drug dealers and give more information to the feds. And it was just like, wow, who allows this to happen? And then I saw a movie called White Boy Rick that explains this whole thing, where they created this guy. They made him into a drug dealer to the feds. He was actually a gun runner, and a very low-level one, and they turned him into a big drug dealer just so that they could have more guys to bust. I mean, just fascinating. That's a true story. So I look at that, and I think, how different of that is this? You get this whack job that has whatever his proclivity for an issue is, Ukraine, etc. And he's okay, do what you got to do, and he feels like he has license, or maybe it's suggested, kind of like the Gretchen Whitmer thing, where they were like, "Oh, you want us to, to get Governor Whitmer?" And yeah, sure, that type of entrapment type of scenario. I don't know. I'm thinking outside the box here. What do you think? 1 minute.
Well, to me, the biggest tell on this is the felonies. I mean, when you're talking about hard time, again, some things that you can do, you do. A felony level robbery, felony level arms, that's bad. So I think that's where it really indicates there's something larger at play here. So that's
we'll pick up right after this break. Folks, we're coming right back with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, Senior Fellow and President of Project Sentinel. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So there's an inevitable sit down with protectees across the Secret Service spectrum about open air events. This is going to happen. I guarantee you. The question I can't answer right now is whether each protectee is going to go with the program. In other words, will Donald Trump, if encouraged by the Secret Service to stop golfing, or to change golf courses, or do something that's far more protected, will he abide by that? I think in these remaining weeks, I would take the advice of security professionals, whatever they say, but we're already living in a society where our nominees, our vice presidential nominees, are speaking from behind bullet-resistant glass at open-air rallies. How far can this go? How far can we fund, if at all, the Secret Service to put numerous drones up to see an aerial shot of golf courses, concerts, rallies? Is this going to become the norm? Where is the perimeter? Because the more you move a perimeter out, we're already hearing that this shooter was on the fence line or behind the fence line of the golf course. Where do you put your perimeter? How many agents, how many police officers will you need? Do you need an entire, square acre? Do you need miles of perimeter? These are questions that almost can't be answered because they're cost prohibitive and resource prohibitive.
That is a panelist on MSNBC on with Ari Melber, I believe, having a discussion about whether Trump should continue golfing after this latest assassination attempt, whether we should continue funding Secret Service protection for candidates. I mean, this is absolute insanity. My big question is here, why on earth was MSNBC there when this whole thing went down? Because as they were having that conversation, they're showing footage from MSNBC actually being on deck. Now, of course, the obvious answer is likely going to be, oh, we were trying to get footage of Trump because we know he golfs on Sundays and he's running for president, so why wouldn't we be there? But if that were the case, why wouldn't they all be there? Isn't it funny how you get CNN that's on deck when they went to grab Roger Stone and when they went to grab Paul Manafort and everybody else? It's like they get tipped off. I don't always wear my tinfoil hat, but I do like to wear it to go to sleep. So I want to bring in Tony Shaffer, right? Tony Shaffer is a former national security advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign. He's a former DIA intelligence officer, former lieutenant colonel, United States Army. Tony Shaffer, is anything this man's saying making sense to you?
No. You need to assess the risk and then assign resources appropriate to counter or mitigate that risk. It's the other way around from what he's saying. And just as a hint, Barack Obama, by the way, who's another ex-president, has a very large contingent, actually larger than Trump, so there's a hint for you. The other thing he's saying, which has absolutely no merit, is the idea that somehow candidates have to change their campaign style. Again, it's like their right is to go forward and do what they have to. And again, it's the Secret Service has something like $9 billion in resources available to it. It's not just the Secret Service. They have DHS. They have DOD. Come on, Rich. It's a big government, right? We spend a lot of money for our
It's a huge government. And I'm thinking, put the shoe on the other foot, Tony Shaffer. You mentioned Barack Obama. Imagine Barack Obama. Somebody takes a shot at him, takes a little piece of his ear off, and then the next month they find somebody pointing an AK-47 at him. You think that they're not going to stop the presses and bring in every last person they can to secure it? Exactly. And I would be all for it.
Yeah, exactly. And regarding the comments, like part of, and by the way, I was at Chesapeake, Virginia rally 2 weeks before the Butler shooting. And so Butler was notable by the fact that the media was covering that rally for the first time live. Why would you do that? No, by the way, a famous New York Times reporter was there in the front taking photographs. He caught that famous photograph of Trump right after he shot with the bullet zooming through. Gee, why did he show up there? Why all of a sudden were people there at Butler? Another question that has yet to be answered. Why that rally? Why that one? And again here, why on earth, out of all the Sundays of all the different weeks, did MSNBC pick this one to go spy on Trump? Well, I think there's something more afoot here. If you just look at the facts, it's not even being conspiratorial. It's just asking questions about behavior. Does MSNBC typically send crews out on Sundays to go watch Trump on a golf course? No. They've never done it before. Why this time? You got to ask that question. Why on earth do they not have adequate resources assigned to Trump? Well, again, we have a very big government, and President Biden today said, well, they need to go ask Congress for more money. No, there's plenty of resources. They're making the choice. They're making a political choice to not adequately supply manpower to the Trump administration, to the Trump team. Now, let me say this other thing, too. I'm a guy that believes in adapting technology. One of my jobs back when I was an operative, Rich, was to weaponize technology. That was my job. Figure out new technology, figure out how to weaponize it. So one of the things that you also look at is how do you use technology to counter threats? Well, a drone. My son, who's 17, has a drone, a very high-end drone. He's actually commercially licensed by the FAA to go, make money professionally. Yeah. For goodness sake, Rich, why didn't they have a drone doing enhanced surveillance ahead of the president? This is like basic technology. They
did have one at the golf course, with a drone. No? You're saying at the Butler rally?
No, I'm saying anywhere. I'm saying at the Butler rally. I'm saying another place.
Catch this guy.
They did at one point, but I'm saying they didn't have one at the Trump golf course. Why not? Once the president goes out, you don't need a helicopter. You can have drones. So I'm just saying that they should have had, drones which can detect individuals in the bushes, because you can do that now. Technology can do that. Why didn't they have it? That's inexpensive compared to other things you'd have to do. My point being is that clearly people aren't thinking out of the box. They're not thinking proactively. Instead, you have these apologists on MSNBC trying to say, oh, well, the system's broken, and, gee, the candidates just have to accept it's broken. They have to adapt to that. It's completely wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And folks, just to remind you, we're on with former Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, intelligence officer with DIA. He was the national security advisor to Trump's 2020 campaign, and he is the head of the London Center. And Tony Shaffer, when we look at this situation, and I think you're raising all the right questions, and the same ones I have. To me, you're a former spy. I worked in politics. I can tell you that my purview of this would be they're doing this to put them at risk, right? That's the reason they don't have these things. If the money's there and they have the ability, why are we sending the lactating, recent mom that has to pump breast milk during her shift watching Trump's back, right? There's a reason. Right, it's not anything against women or lactation. It's everything against the fact that we're not giving him the best protection, because hopefully something falls through the cracks. And oh my gosh, so sorry. Right, and here we have it.
Right, and I think that's what we have to be aware of, is that people above his detail are making horrific and dangerous decisions to inadequately provide or to insufficiently man and provide manpower and technology to protect Trump. So, and one of the things that we've said after Butler, and the campaign turned it down, the Trump campaign, is like, look, you need to invest in your own security because, gee, Joe Biden's government, do you really want to put your life in Joe Biden's hands? You kind of are. And I think this is more evidence of it, is that, President Trump, is obligated not only to make sure that he has a Secret Service detail which is loyal and effective, he's going to have to go out and bring some other folks in. If I were him, if I were in charge, I'd make sure that military elements were available to come and augment. And I can't go into a lot of detail, but suffice to say, Rich, anything the Secret Service can do, we have elements of the military that can do the same thing, and probably even do it in ways that people would not fully understand. But I'm telling you, Trump needs a Delta Force team kind of shadowing him from now on, something like that, because sitting presidents get that. He should get something like that, because they always say, well, he's not sitting president. Well, I would argue he's under more threat. There's more,
Sure. More people want to kill Trump than they want to kill Biden. That's for sure.
Right. Yes, right. So I'm just saying. So, the threat is against Trump, not Biden. Not to say that people don't like Biden. They don't, but they don't care. And I would argue that Trump clearly is a target, because not only are the Democrats out to get him, I think there's elements of the government who clearly don't want him coming back to be president.
Yeah, I agree with that. Folks, we're on with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer from the London Center. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. And I'm pretty sure you guys remember when Sean Penn and Madonna and all these people, all the Democrats and their supporters were getting together saying that we got to take out Trump. Listen to this.
We'll go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Unbelievable, right? You heard that. And this is not alone. We got to put a bullet in the head of Donald Trump is what this guy said. That's the guy from the Lincoln Project. It gets worse. You've got Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's on MSNBC with Jen Psaki and pretty much echoing the same thing. Listen to this.
I talk about the fact that when we swore in finally in January, that we swore to defend against those that are coming against us, whether they are domestic or international. And right now, I feel like MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. And we see it time and time again. And I think that's why you see so many national leaders, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, coming together to say there is only one person qualified to be the commander in chief, and that is Kamala.
And that is Kamala Harris. Again, that's Jasmine Crockett. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, when you hear this, they're the same people that are telling us, you and me and everybody else here, and if you'll indulge me, I just have one more audio clip because it's so hypocritical to me. They're the ones saying that we have to dial down the temperature. Listen to Alex Witt on MSNBC. Check this one out.
What can we all do to take the temperature down?
Yeah. Do you expect there to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that? Because he's going to reach out to his supporters and say, let's take this down. We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Well, Alex, remember back to the assassination attempt on President Trump's life and how, there was talk of a new tone, and then the Republican convention was, by Trumpian standards, muted. And it did seem like he was, just trying to take it down a few notches. But then by the end of his convention speech, we were kind of back to where we started. So I don't know how long this could, this moment of unity for the country where we come together and we say, I don't want any political opposition to be under threat of violence. It's not okay. Any threat of violence, we don't want. I would love for us to have a unity type moment, but I think it's probably going to be pretty fleeting, as we've seen in the past.
Again, that's Alex Witt with Elise Jordan. Now, Tony Shaffer, we've heard them say, you've heard these clips. I wanted to play them so that there's full context and nobody blames me of splicing things up. This is the Democrats and the celebrities saying that we are going to, we have to put a bullet in his brain. We've heard the Congresswoman say that he is a threat to democracy. He's a clear and present danger, Liz Cheney said. And now we have the media blaming Trump for not dialing back the temperature. When I'm thinking, is there anybody shooting at somebody else? Because it seems to be they're shooting at Trump.
No, and then Lester Holt piled on the other day on his program. And then speaking of Jan Psaki, she had Representative Goldman, saying that Trump had to be terminated on the air. I guess if you want to make a threat, I guess you go on Jan's show, just saying. But look, I tweeted this out earlier. Violence is to the Democrats as what vodka is to Nancy Pelosi. They're related. I'm just saying. It's a bit of a joke, but no. Look, we recognize now that there's one side that uses violent rhetoric and violence as a form of political speech. Antifa, BLM. All these things are related, and you see the Democrats defend this stuff. And of course, who's taking the side of the terrorists in Hamas with Hamas? Right. You've got the Hamas caucus. So there's a pattern, and I think people have to recognize at this point that the rhetoric it has an effect on people. Now, at best case, Rich, both the shooter in Pennsylvania and this new guy were influenced by that rhetoric. Best case. There may be more there. We don't know. But at minimum, there's been recognition that the violence, the violent rhetoric, the bellicose language affects people who are, I'll just say it, mentally unstable. There's little doubt that you have to be unstable to pick up a gun and shoot at the president, right? I think that's apparent. So clearly they were affected by something. And at minimum, they were affected by the language that the left uses to encourage their folks to take up and do something. This is not acceptable. Our side, I don't think, has any problem not trying to discourage violence, but it's sad that you see them trying to blame the Trump campaign for simply being, going in the right direction numbers-wise. And let me say this for your audience, and I think they'll agree. The more Kamala Harris's numbers tank, and mark my word, you're going to see a 5-point drop over the next 2 weeks, the more their rhetoric's going to increase. I don't think that they're done with trying to encourage people to pick up and do something violent against President Trump.
I was listening to a clip earlier, and Jasmine Crockett kind of alluded to that, saying that it's not just Trump, it's all Republicans. Right. MAGA has become the party of extremism. Republicans, if you're not Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, you are you're one of them, right? You're a MAGA, and I believe that this is truly the most dangerous rhetoric, because if they want to treat everybody like Trump, then that means it's open season on me and you and anybody else that's supporting President Trump. And you tell me who's got to dial back the divisive rhetoric.
Well, I was friends with Tulsi Gabbard before she left the Democrat Party. I've met RFK. Look at who's leaving their party, Rich. I think they're leaving because they've figured out maybe their party ain't that what they say, the party of freedom and free speech and
joy.
And joy. I'm looking for the joy. I'm looking up and down for that joy. I'm hoping to find it, but I don't see it yet.
Yeah, and I sit here from where I am, and I'm thinking there is no BLM movement on behalf of Trump. There's no Antifa movement on behalf of Trump. There is no shooting on behalf of Trump. But we do see this on behalf of the other side. All they can do is continuously point to January 6th. Trump sent and incited this mob to go tear up the Capitol. And granted, it's a great visual for the story that they're trying to sell, this narrative. But at the end of the day, the facts just don't line up, Tony Shaffer.
No, they don't. And I think this is what we have to do, is continue to educate the public as best we can using fact and examples, not emotion and aspirations, because the left aspires, Rich, to undermine the system. And boy, oh boy, if there is ever a threat to democracy, I'd say it's those who are trying to actually remove a guy who had 14 million votes who should have been the candidate. It's like, he's not polling well, so let's put in Kamala.
Right.
So, I think there's a clear threat to the Republic, and it ain't us.
Folks, check him out at the London Center for Policy. Tony Shaffer, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for being here, sir.
Always great being with you, Rich. Thanks.
Yep, hope to have you back soon. Godspeed, my friend. And folks, we come back to take a look at white privilege, racial harmony, and very fine people on both sides. Don't go anywhere. We continue our discussion with me, Rich Valdez.
From the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Monday night. We're live, we're national, and our phone number, if you want to give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And, of course, the big story remains Donald Trump, a second assassination attempt. He survived. He's fantastic. He's doing great. And he spoke about it this evening on a Twitter Spaces event, and we've got a clip of it. Check this out.
It was quite something, but it worked out well, and Secret Service did an excellent job. And they have the man behind bars, and hopefully he's going to be there for a long time. Dangerous person, very, very dangerous person. So I was playing golf with some of my friends. It was on a Sunday morning. And very peaceful, very beautiful weather. Everything was beautiful. It was a nice place to be. And all of a sudden we heard shots being fired in the air. And I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets. And they grabbed me. The agent did a fantastic job. There was no question that we were off that course. I would have loved to have sank that last putt, but we decided, well, let's get out of here. And what the gunfire was actually, interestingly, was a Secret Service agent had seen a barrel of a AK-47, which is a very powerful rifle, and he started shooting at the barrel, started shooting in the bushes. Wow. Could only see the barrel. How good is that, right? There's something going on. I mean, perhaps it's God wanting me to be president to save this country.
So, El Trumpito, as I like to call him, he survives his second assassination attempt. Absolutely insane to me that this is even happening. But it makes all the sense in the world because you've got the Democrats and his critics that are running rampant out there, roughshod, just absolutely calling for this violence. It's no surprise that it's happening. We just had a very interesting conversation with respect to who is this guy? Is he working with the feds? Is he a spook himself? What's the story? So we're going to move on from that and get into a couple other items because there's just so much to discuss tonight. And, of course, Biden and Vice President Harris have called for, peace and whatever it is that they say. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but they're the first ones saying this, It was Biden that said, I want to take them outside the back, and, the violence, the vitriol is just evident, and it's sickening, honestly, and we're seeing the result of it. But we also have Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. P. Diddy's been arrested just a little while ago for, let's see, they were going to arrest him tomorrow, but something happened, and they moved in a day earlier. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams says that the agents went in on a sealed indictment in the Southern District of New York and he was taken into federal custody. Let's see, Homeland Security swooped in the Midtown Hotel earlier today. Diddy was there. He was arrested. They have unconfirmed reports that the feds are searching the hotel room. And as you know, over the summer, he was raided. Two of his properties were raided. I think one in L.A., one in Miami. So this is related to some sort of ongoing criminal investigation into sex trafficking. So we will see how this thing ends up. But Sean Puff Daddy P. Diddy Combs arrested by the feds earlier today. And I'm guessing, he could talk about a lot of things, as he could say it's white privilege, other people get away with it, and him and Bill Cosby don't get away with it. I don't know if it's white privilege, black privilege. I don't know if there's any privilege here. But my buddy A.J. Rice, he's got a book called The White Privilege Album, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. And it's a comedy about race and wokeness and cancel culture in America. It's a tragedy about race and wokeness and cancel culture in America, part satire, part journalism, part truth serum. This is sure to be a runaway bestseller. And The Working Dead, with a hilarious sequel. That was the last book. And I can't wait to hear more about it. because this is the type of thing I think America needs right now, where we've got whack jobs that are shooting at presidents and rap moguls that are being arrested for sex trafficking. The only thing that we can have right now is a little bit of comic relief. AJ Rice, welcome back.
Rich, my brother, great to be here. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to put a project like this together. I mean, it seems fitting with your personality and your wheelhouse, but doesn't seem like an easy project to put together, where you kind of combine all of this stuff. You've got, race hustlers, people in the media, academia, entertainment, politics, kind of all together, getting it from you.
Well, look, it might be hard for some, but
Piece
two
of cake
people
for
it's
you.
not hard for. Yeah, look, the two people it's not hard for are you and I, my brother, because this is a target-rich environment. This is a direct sequel to The Walking Dead. And look, you could rewrite these books every day with the
Sadly.
The circus, the cancel culture circus, the SJW circus, the trans mafia out there trying to abduct children. I mean, it's a shame that we've gotten to this point, but someone needs to make fun of these people. There's nothing better than perfectly timed derision, especially like our old friend Limbaugh used to say. Look, our job is to use irreverent humor to illustrate truth. So that's what I tried to do with the Walking Dead. The White Privilege album, no different. I'm just drilling down on a little more detail, less macro, more micro, on what the cultural Marxists, because that's who the Walking Dead are, the cultural Marxists that are pushing for, basically Western civilization to kind of go away. Because to be honest with you, I'm abducting the term white privilege back from them. I'm taking it, I'm kidnapping it, because when you hear this term, and it doesn't matter whether it's from MSNBC or your local humanities professor, what they're actually talking about is Western civilization. So Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian civilization. Mm-hmm. They want it to go away. They want it to be no more. That's one of the three things I'm talking about. The second thing I'm talking about is the middle class. And if you study Marxism, economic, cultural, or otherwise, what you'll find is most of the times when Stalinism or communism, Marxism pops up and it spins up in a place, it's places that don't have a middle class. And the left knows that, which is why their policies, from flooding the border with immigrants to, the Green New Deal, is designed to crush the middle class. It is their goal. They love it. And the third thing, and look, here's the thing. Now, they actually say this out loud. They put it on their websites. But the third thing that has to go is the nuclear family. It has to go. Black Lives Matter put it on their website. Plenty of people say it's a construct of white privilege, intersectionality. But the reality is that those three things, Western Civ, the middle class, the nuclear family, they have to go so that they can remake our culture in their image. And then let me just say one other thing. And I'm having fun with white privilege. But those three things don't have a color, okay? They don't have a color. You can come to the United States from all over, from Ireland, from Puerto Rico, from Chile, from Eastern Europe, and you can participate in Western civilization. You can try to become a member of the middle class, and you can have a nuclear family. Those are colorblind things because we're not a multicultural country. We're a multi-ethnic country. We have one culture here. It's Western civilization, and that's what I'm talking about in the book.
Outstanding. Folks, we're on with AJ Rice. He is the author of the new book, The White Privilege Album, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. And we're going to continue our discussion with him. You talk about the trans mafia, and there's a clip of audio I want to play for you to get your reaction to regarding the trans mafia as well, and some recent legislative developments. So keep it locked right here, folks. We're coming right back with AJ Rice.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Who knows their children best? That would be parents. But what our government is telling you by implementing laws and rulings just like this is that they know your children better than you do. They don't believe that these are your kids. They believe that these are the government's kids, whether it's the state level, the local level, even at the federal level. These are all policies that you could expect to be implemented under a Harris-Walz administration.
And we talked about this on radio yesterday. Maybe two or 3 years ago, maybe a lot of the country would say to themselves, wow, I'm so glad California stood tall. I think most of the country has had it with this, and they see the idiocy in this. So this district has to do the right thing in a state that's gone wrong, and they get slapped down.
I wish, again, our government had half the gumption that they did in standing up for parental rights, the safeguarding of children, and women's rights.
That, of course, Riley Gaines. She has been on this program before, a fantastic college swimmer that's now a big activist defending women in women's sports and keeping men out of it. But brings up a great point about this California proposition that is, in effect, exactly what the trans mafia that A.J. Rice was telling us about. A.J. Rice, what do you think about that?
Well, look, the goal is to capture your children. And, you know, there's different flavors to cultural Marxism. The trans mafia are just one of them. But any way they can get to them, they will. And that really that's the goal. It used to be, you know, you would wait for your kids to go off to college. They come home their first semester, and that's when they start hating their parents. But now, you know, it's a situation where you got trickle down deviancy, and they are starting this stuff in some jurisdictions in this country in kindergarten, because they want loyal foot soldiers for the future. It doesn't matter whether it's the Green New Deal or trans mafia or, you know, endless wars. They want you to support it, and they come through the phones. They come through some of the entertainment, and, you know, we have to be aware. I'm a free speech absolutist. I'm not here to shut down sports teams or, you know, production companies or streaming services, but you need to at least be a little bit aware. And as the boomers and Gen Xers sort of walk off into retirement, I think, and don't gasp here, but I think the millennials who are very aware, we're very aware. I think we're the ones that are going to save us from some of this nonsense that Gen Z has bought into.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, you just made a really good point about how they're coming after kids, and it's a similar point that Riley Gaines was making. And I had a clip of audio the other day. And do we have that yet, Count Delacula? Well, in essence, I guess we're going to miss the boat on that. But in essence, the guy says that the reason that the alphabet mafia, the trans mafia, is recruiting children is because they can't produce them on their own. And that's the only way they can win them over to their cause. And while it's a simple point that he makes, I think it's a brilliant one, because that truly is the only way to get them. Get them while they're young. You teach them otherwise. And I think this is hugely problematic. And while the book, like you said, is part satire and part philosophy, but this is one of those that you can make jokes all you want, but this is a serious problem, A.J. Rice.
Sure. And look, you know, when you and I are in front of the firing squad, you know, I'll crack jokes all the way till they end us, but gallows humor. But it is serious. It's deathly serious. It's civilizational stakes here. And the goal, a lot of times, you know, whether it's on race or whether it's on trans stuff, and it's on many other things, is to sort of try to expose the fault lines of our civilization and our culture to get us at each other's throats. But I got to tell you, when it comes to sending Tim and Jim into the women's locker room, I think most people that are sane are part of the insurrection that Liz Cheney can't see. And that is an insurrection of parents that don't want this stuff to follow them home. They're working their asses off. They're dealing with inflation. They're dealing with sometimes single parenthood. And the last thing they need to be worried about is some wacko teacher or some wacko textbook trying to flip their child into becoming a foot soldier for the cultural Marxist left. And it cuts across Democrats and Republicans, and that's the true insurrection, Rich. It's the rebellion of parents.
Yeah. Folks, we're on with A.J. Rice. He's got this book. You got to get a copy. I say give one to somebody who could really appreciate it. The book is The White Privilege Album, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. I love the title. And you can learn more about it at whiteprivilegealbum.com. Now, in the minute and a half we have left, A.J. Rice, I want you to let everybody know what they can really take away, the major takeaway that they're going to have when they buy a copy of the book.
Well, look, I'm poking fun at the left. I was raised by, guys like Breitbart, Laura Ingraham. That's what we did. I was Ingram's executive producer. You know what the deal is there, brother. You cut your teeth your own way. Yeah. So look, the Very Fine People hoax, and it is a hoax, is the foundational lie of the Trump is a racist canard that's been out there in the media. And they've got a lot of them. Losers and Suckers and Bloodbath and IVF and Project 2025. This is what they do. They get their marching orders off of the the fax machine or the transom or their the bathroom wall that they're hanging out in at 4 a.m. But it's all sort of the same thing. And what we need to do is hang a joke on these people and to push back. Because if you're going to take back your country, we can write all the books you want. We can host all the shows. But the reality is you have to fight for your culture, because not all cultures are created equal, which is why some of them go away. And you have a great one. You have a great one, and it's for everybody, right? It's for everybody. It's a colorblind place, and you can participate. So, look, get a copy of the book. The holidays are coming up. If you've got a blue-haired niece or nephew, horrify them a little bit, but absolutely get out there and vote in November.
Outstanding. I love it. A.J. Rice, again, author of the book, The White Privilege Album, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. The website is whiteprivilegealbum.com. A.J. Rice, let everybody know how they could find out more about you and the work you're doing.
Well, look, I run Publius PR. We provide guests to brilliant shows like this. We're out there. Fairly easy to find me. Look, we love you guys. Rich, you're a legend. You keep fighting.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. I appreciate it. And good luck with the book. Folks, check him out, A.J. Rice. And we're coming right back with more. Don't go anywhere.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. And we continue our conversation. I want to jump into something we haven't talked about in a while, which is what's going on with this World Health Assembly. We've had a couple of conversations about this in the last several months, over the last year, I'd say. And I don't know where we are, so I want to get an update on that. And I want to get it from Reggie Littlejohn. She's president of Anti-Globalist International. And she's our guest now. Reggie Littlejohn, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Rich. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise. Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, bring us up to speed. I know that, there was a lot of talk about this this World Health Organization initiative that was originally labeled a treaty, and they said it didn't go through the Senate, so it can't be a treaty. And then they changed it, said, no, it's just an agreement. And they made all these changes, and and they said we're going to hold off and do it a little later, and maybe now is later. Tell us what's going on. Okay, so there were actually two instruments. One was the so-called pandemic treaty. The other one was amendments to the international health regulations. And the pandemic treaty was postponed. It was not, they didn't get rid of it. They just postponed it, and they were just actually renegotiating it last week. So it's probably going to be coming up for a vote shortly, although they are very impenetrable about these things. The international health regulation amendments passed on June 1st. I was there in Geneva opposing this, actually. And even if they don't pass the pandemic treaty, Rich, they got everything they need to establish a global totalitarian police state from just the amendments to the international health regulations. So what is included in those amendments is an obligation on the behalf of various nations to surveil their citizens, to they call address misinformation or disinformation, basically to control the narrative. And then they also have a requirement: every country must institute a national ID system, like a health ID or vaccine passport type system. It'll be either paper for countries that don't have the ability to do digital ones, or it'll be digital. And the digital IDs, you don't see in that document, you don't see in the amended international health regulations the dangers of these digital IDs. But if you go onto the World Economic Forum website, they have a chart there that shows you what these digital IDs are meant to do, which is to control your access and surveil you on basically every aspect of human society. Wow. So with that one, you will not be able to have a bank account. You will not be able to travel. You will not be able to access government benefits like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. You will not be able to own a communications device like a computer or a cell phone. You will not be able to have a social media account. You will not be able to vote. You will not be able to pay your taxes. So these are a method of total control, surveillance and total control. They did pass on June 1st, but the good news is that just this week we had a major victory, and I and the Sovereignty Coalition have been pushing for this for years, which is to say that every agreement that comes out of the World Health Organization, including the amendments to the international health regulations, is a treaty and must have passed through the advice and consent of the Senate. So that's a huge victory, but it hasn't passed the Senate yet, and who knows whether the president will sign it, because the Biden-Harris administration has been all behind this stuff. They're not protecting us; they are trying to ram this through. Folks, we're on with Reggie Littlejohn. She's co-founder of the Sovereignty Coalition and president of the Anti-Globalist International group. And this is pretty scary stuff, to think that we're moving towards this Chinese-styled social credit score that's based on our health. Is there an off-ramp?
Well, it's not just based on our health. It's based on like the China social credit system. They surveil every aspect of your life. And every one of those things I just mentioned to you, since you need this digital ID to access them, they're going to be surveilling us on every aspect of
so it's really
our
based on our
posts.
compliance.
So absolutely. So this is what it is. In China, if you are a compliant citizen, if you never break the rules, you never challenge the government, you get all your vaccines, they will let you live what looks like a normal life. But if you step out of line, then immediately they'll come crashing down on you with, you can lose your job, you won't be able to borrow money to buy a house or start a business. If you keep it up, they'll sever you from your credit cards and bank accounts. And if you think that can't happen, in North America, it already did with the Canadian truckers a couple of years ago, when the truckers were just having a protest about vaccine mandates, and they cut them off from their credit cards and their bank accounts, and the people who donated to them. And then in China, if you keep it up, they'll just disappear you. So the infrastructure for this already exists in the United States. And in my opinion, what they're doing is they're just waiting for a crisis big enough to justify basically snapping shut this trap to what I call a digital gulag.
Unbelievable. Folks, we're on with Reggie Littlejohn, president and founder of Women's Rights Without Frontiers. And this is, again, every time I hear about it, it's equally as concerning and disappointing, not so much surprising because I kind of expect this from the globalist left, but I feel like many people would be up in arms about it, and those that know are up in arms about it, but they don't know what to do and how to do. What's your advice to the listener right now that's saying, you know, I'm blowing smoke out of my ears, I'm clenching my fists, what's next?
Okay, so the reason, in my opinion, that this bill was able to pass through Congress, demanding that these things go through the Senate, is because of the Sovereign Coalition has run a number of campaigns where we can send, and also Anti-Globalist International has one up now, send a message to your congressmen, your senators, about these things and that you don't want them. So the website I would say that people should go to is called antiglobalist.net, one word, antiglobalist.net. And we've got on the right-hand side, there's something called Take Action. Now, that Take Action does not have to do with the World Health Organization. It has to do with the United Nations, whose Summit on the Future is coming up at the end of this week. So it's actually really, and the United Nations wants to get all the same powers that I just mentioned to you in terms of the World Health Organization, but they want to get them for example, climate change, or the grid going down, or being a disruption in cyberspace, or a major event in outer space. They actually say that, or a black swan event. So something that's an unforeseen event that they just, just a catch-all, anything that they didn't think of. And the Secretary General of the United Nations wants to have an emergency platform that will operationalize automatically in the case of one of these things that they are terming a complex global shock. So what does it mean to operationalize automatically? It means that once this gets voted in, or not even voted in, and I can talk later about the silence procedure that they have, but once it's adopted, then they don't even have to go back to the nations to say, okay, well, we're going to declare a complex global shock about this, and therefore the United Nations is going to be at the center of directing the world on how to handle it. So please go on to antiglobalist.net and take action. Alert your representatives. Most of them do not even know about this. They don't even know about it because the freedom movement has been so focused on the World Health Organization that and then summer happened, and now all of a sudden we're caught short with this huge vote coming up in the United Nations this week.
Wow. Well, a lot to think about and a lot of action needs to be taken. Reggie Littlejohn, let everyone know how they can find you and keep up to speed with the work that you're doing.
Well, I would go to Getter, so it's at Real Reggie Littlejohn on Getter. But if you go to antiglobalist.net, I have a manifesto on the front page. The beginning of it is, we are living in a globalist coup effectuated by a wealthy and powerful international elite determined to enslave humanity to its own advantage. So if you agree with that, go to antiglobalist.net and sign the manifesto, and that will put you on my newsletter list, and then I will keep you up to date on developments and on actions that you can take, because we need to take action on these things while we can. Once this digital gulag is in place, there will be no more dissent, because if you try to dissent, you'll just be canceled. They'll censor you, and then they could even cut you off from your credit cards and bank accounts, et cetera.
Scary stuff.
So act now, or forever hold your peace.
Folks, go to the website she just told you. Give them the website one more time, Reggie.
Okay, it's Anti-Globalist, antiglobalist.net. One word, antiglobalist.net. That's the website.
Antiglobalist.net. Folks, check it out. Reggie Littlejohn, I want to thank you for being here. Hopefully we can touch base again in a little bit to get the latest on this stuff. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Have a great night. Folks, there is more to come straight ahead. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation, and interestingly, fallout over the debate continues, with ABC being forced to correct the record on how they dropped the ball so miserably, only fact-checking Trump and not fact-checking Que Mala Eres. And this is being called out by everybody, including voters. Listen to Claire Bobiak. She's a Pennsylvania voter. She was on ABC this week as part of like a focus group. And she says that Que Mala Eres dodged questions during the debate. Check this out.
When she was asked direct questions, she didn't answer them. So that's why that's what's left me with, okay, I'm not quite sure yet what her policies are and so on. So I'm going to dig a little more into her policies.
And you were satisfied with the answers that Donald Trump gave?
Well, I knew them already.
There you go. An informed voter. And that's what happens when people know their stuff, just like even some people in the fake news, right? Some people, Martha Raddatz had to call out her colleagues here when Lindsey Davis and David Muir didn't do anything at all to correct the record when Kamala Harris was saying that there are no troops absolutely anywhere in war zones across the world for the first time, I don't know, ever, whatever her claim was. It was a bizarre claim, and it quickly was taken to task by folks on the internet. Matter of fact, a bunch of soldiers that were serving were watching the debate and taped themselves and said, where the F are we if we're not? And obviously they were stationed overseas in a war zone. So Que Mala Eres lying to the American people, and Martha Raddatz had to call her out. Listen to this.
I want to ask you about her comments about the military. She said during the debate this about the U.S. military. Let's listen.
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Our fact checkers found that to be false, and I have a lot of experience in that area as well. There are currently 900 U.S. military personnel in Syria, 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq. All have been under regular threat from drones and missiles for months. We also have action in the Red Sea. We also, every single day, the Navy SEALs, Delta Forces, special operators can be part of any sort of deadly raid. So why would she make that claim?
Well, I think what's important here, Martha, is that Kamala Harris, in contrast to Donald Trump, demonstrated herself to be commander-in-chief.
Hold on a second. What is she saying? She just told her that her homie is a liar. And that's Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts, that's on with Martha Raddatz on ABC News. And she's calling out her colleagues and the vice president, saying that, they didn't fact check her. She lied. What's good? And Governor Healey just says she proved herself to be commander-in-chief. How? By lying? Listen to this.
A world where there are all sorts of conflicts, and it's all the more reason we need somebody who's serious and who supports the military. And just remember,
Governor, excuse me, but she said there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone. That is not true. You say she demonstrated her ability to be commander-in-chief, but did she not know about these people in Syria and Iraq? Why would she say that?
Look, that was a comment. That was a comment in a debate. I think the point that she was trying to make was a broader point. And of course, we have military in place all around this country.
Wow. That was a comment in the debate. Does that mean I get to say that about Trump now? Right? When they come at him and say, he's talking about dogs, he's talking about this, he's talking about... Oh, that was just a comment in a debate. And quite frankly, there are. I agree with the statement that there are comments that are made in debate that are political red meat or, a little bit of hyperbole to get things going. I understand performance art. Trust me, I do. But, oh, come on. That wasn't performance art. That was a fake fact. Right? That was a fake, phony, fraud thing to say. There was no truth in it. It wasn't like she messed up on a word or like she meant to say, well, there's no active duty troops or there's no reserve troops or, some sort of minor modifier that might have changed it somewhat, but made it true another way. That wasn't true in any way. In any way, that wasn't true. And that's why it was so egregious. And, good for Martha Raddatz. And again, it's not that she's some sort of bastion for truth. I think she just felt like, you know what, look, lady, you're not going to embarrass me. Don't insult my intelligence. I know how to read, and I've done this before. And I think more than anything, she was just insulted that they were insulting her intelligence by trying to get over on her. And good for her. More journalists should take things personally and do the right thing. Right? Maybe we could have seen a little bit of rivalry between David Muir and Lindsay Davis instead of seeing them both be lockstep carrying water for the Democrats. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back. I got another fact check for you. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life American Group is requesting a correction from ABC News after debate moderator Lindsay Davis claimed there was no state in this country where it's legal to kill a baby after it's born.
There's no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
In a letter, President Marjorie Dannenfeller wrote in part, "This is 100% inaccurate." Her statement tragically ignores the reality of babies who survive failed late-term abortions but are denied basic medical care and left to die. We are writing to request a swift correction from Ms. Davis and ABC News. It is undeniable that babies are born in this country after failed abortions, as the facts below demonstrate. A correction from the network and the debate moderators is an important first step in acknowledging this fact. We also encourage ABC to meet with abortion survivors who are a living testament to the need for born-alive protections.
Well, isn't that something? So, yeah, you've heard that echo all over the place since it was said, and Trump calling it out, calling out Ralph Northam and the law in New York and subsequent laws that allow this type of thing. But yet again, ABC News having to acknowledge that they were called out by Susan B. Anthony here, the group, the pro-life group, to correct the record. Isn't that something? Well, thank God for, ex post facto corrections. The media specialize in that. Anyway, I want to get your reactions to all of this and so much more. Give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. It's Open Phone America. You get to weigh in on absolutely everything we've talked about, from the Trump assassination to the World Health Organization to the debate to you name it. Give me a call. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program, and I'm happy to speak with you guys. We call this Open Phones Across America. This is the 3rd hour of the show, a time-honored tradition here, going back to the year I was born when Larry King used to host this show, and maintained by the late, great Jim Bohannon, where you get to call in any topic, whatever you want to say. You just got to say it quick. You know, I'm looking at a clock while you guys are calling in, and when I get to 30 seconds, I get impatient. When I get to a minute, I got to go. So that's typically the time frame. Some people, you know, get 2 and 3 minutes into it, and I'm being polite, but then we don't get to everybody, and it's just too much. So try to pace yourselves. Anyway, welcome to the program. 833-482-5337 again is the number. 833-4-Valdez. And the big story of the weekend: El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, endured a second assassination attempt. And this time he was outside of his golf course. He was at his golf course, and somebody outside of the golf course, Ryan Routh, a radical lefty that hates his guts, decided, I'm going to bring an AK-47 with a ballistic shield and, stake him out for 12 hours. And thankfully never gets a shot, never takes a shot, and gets caught. I mean, just that remarkable. So we're going to get into that. And there's a couple of clips I want to play for you. I got one here from the United States attorney for the Southern District of Florida giving an update on the assassination attempt of former President Trump, describing how the suspect was captured. I saw the body camera footage of that today. Listen to Mackenzie Lapointe.
According to the allegations in the complaint, a U.S. Secret Service agent walking the golf course perimeter saw what appeared to be a rifle poking out of the tree line. After the agent fired a service weapon in the direction of the rifle, a witness saw a man later identified as Ralph fleeing the area in the tree line. Ralph was later apprehended by officers from the Martin County Sheriff's Office in coordination with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. The complaint alleges that in the area of the tree line from which Ralph fled, agents found a digital camera, a backpack, a loaded SKS-style rifle with a scope, and a black plastic bag containing food. The serial number on the rifle was obliterated. According to the complaint, Roth was convicted of felonies in North Carolina in December 2002 and March 2010, and therefore was prohibited from possessing a firearm. The FBI is leading this investigation, this ongoing investigation. As the Attorney General stated earlier today, the FBI is continuing its investigation of this incident as an assassination attempt upon the former president.
So that again, Mackenzie Lapointe, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. And then you've got the former president himself just hours ago weighing in on the X platform. Here's what Donaldus Magnus El Trompito had to say.
It was quite something, but it worked out well, and Secret Service did an excellent job. And they have the man behind bars, and hopefully he's going to be there for a long time. Dangerous person, very, very dangerous person. So I was playing golf with some of my friends. It was on a Sunday morning, and very peaceful, very beautiful weather. Everything was beautiful. It was a nice place to be. And all of a sudden we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets. And they grabbed me. The agent did a fantastic job. There was no question that we were off that course. I would have loved to have sank that last putt, but we decided, well, let's get out of here. And what the gunfire was actually, interestingly, was a Secret Service agent had seen a barrel of a AK-47, which is a very powerful gun, rifle, and he started shooting at the barrel, started shooting in the bushes. Wow. Could only see the barrel. How good is that, right? There's something going on. I mean, perhaps it's God wanting me to be president to save this country.
I love that. I love that. If it were me, I would have said, perhaps it's God saving my life. But he takes it a step further because he has the clarity of vision, right? And he says, perhaps it's God wanting me to be president of the United States. Talk about endorsements, right? You got Nicky Jam, the Latin music superstar, who endorsed Trump over the weekend. And then you had the other ones, Anuel AA and Justin Quiles, and now Nicky Jam. And this one was funny. I'm going to go back to the story, but now that he mentioned endorsements and the one from God, and I believe that. I do believe that that's in the best interest of all of us. But for those who may have seen this or not seen it, I guess Trump doesn't know who Nicky Jam is, and that's fine. I'm pretty sure 8 out of 10 of you listening to this probably don't know who Nicky Jam is either, because he's my age or slightly younger than me, and was popular when, reggaeton was really popular in Puerto Rico. He was actually the partner of a guy named Daddy Yankee, who became internationally famous and really took the genre out of Puerto Rico and brought it all over the place, right? It started out in Panama and then made its way into Puerto Rico, kind of stayed there, blew up in Puerto Rico, started to grow a little bit in Latin America, and then Daddy Yankee came with a big song named Gasolina, back I'd say 2001-ish or so, around there. And it's never been the same. It's a huge genre. It's actually, I think, the second largest music genre on the planet is reggaeton. So anyway, all that being said, Trump says, I guess they tell him or they give him a note and they say, hey, Nicky Jam is here and he's endorsed you. And at the rally in Reno and Vegas. And Trump says, Nicky Jam, she's hot. Not knowing that Nicky's a guy. And it was just funny for me. I thought it was great. And Nicky Jam laughed about it, putting a joke on his Instagram. And he put, like he said, I'm the baddest chick in the game or something like that. It was very funny. And it was a great endorsement. And he spoke in Spanish. And it's a heavy-duty endorsement. It's interesting. And I promise I'll get back to the assassination stuff. We got all night. But with Nicky Jam, what was interesting is he was about to do a record with a Spanish rock band known as Maná. And they took offense to his endorsement of Trump and said they don't do music with racists, and put that out on all their social media, and they're not doing the collaboration with them anymore. So there's always a price to be paid when you do these things. I haven't seen the backlash against Anuel AA, but I'm sure there will be one. And similarly, I saw an article earlier today in freebeacon.com, and the headline was, the music industry has finally forgiven Daddy Yankee for endorsing a Republican for president in 2008. So you do the math on that. 2017, it's 9 years, right? And man, it's a long time. So the reason being, there's a lot of people that are hooked on hate, and they absolutely they thrive on bigotry, and they want to say that Trump is a bad guy, and that he's this and he's that and the third. And I think you're never going to get away from that, no matter what business you're in. If you become big in any industry, you're going to attract haters. They're going to say whatever they want to say to get you out. You become competitive to them and their mission. But interesting that he took the plunge and said, I'm going to endorse Trump. I think, yes, Trump has something to gain by it, but Nicky Jam loses, right? And I think Daddy Yankee endorsing McCain back in 2008 against Obama, he also lost, right? It was a very unpopular endorsement for people in their position, but they did it. And really it underscores a point that I make pretty regularly, which is there's a lot more Republicans in Puerto Rico than most people think. And when you hear AOC and Mitch McConnell and some other, even conservative Republicans, all echo McConnell and AOC when they say, if we get 2 new senators in Puerto Rico, they're going to be Democrats. I think that's false. If you look at the number of Republicans that have served as governor in the last 4 or 5 governorships, Republicans lead the way. If you look at who's been the resident commissioner, the one non-voting member of Congress that they have, again, the odds are in the favor of the non-politician, right? So or I should say the non-Democrat, with Republicans faring well in that scenario. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that for a second, and we'll get back to the Trump stuff. Trump taking this extraordinarily easy, right? As soon as this thing happened, what does he do? He jumps on the phone. He calls J.D. Vance, And he tells them exactly what happened. And Vance, speaking at the Faith and Freedom Coalition, he decides to tell the crowd, listen, I got a call from Trump. As soon as this thing went down, listen to what Trump told J.D. Vance.
These are the first public remarks that I have made since my running mate was nearly assassinated for the second time yesterday. And President Trump, I was actually sitting at home in Cincinnati with my 7-year-old, and I get a phone call, and it says Donald J. Trump. So I answer it, and he says, JD, you're not going to believe this, but they tried to do it again. And I said, no, they didn't. You're joshing me. What's going on here, sir? And he says, no, I was playing golf, and the Secret Service found somebody who was trying to shoot me. And I say, oh, my Lord, sir, I'm so glad you're okay. I mean, are you doing okay? Are you not just physically okay, but everything's fine? He said, yeah, I'm doing fine. And this is just who Donald Trump is. He said, I'm a little mad because I was about to make a birdie putt on the 6th hole, and they wouldn't let me finish. The guy's literally like, this happened. I mean, he calls me right after. This is 10 minutes after, and he's pissed off that they won't let him finish his birdie putt right after they found a guy with an AK-47. But by the way, that is kind of the guy that you want to be president of the United States, right? Who's fazed by nothing, who's telling jokes afterwards. I think I was, without a question, bothered by it more than he was, and I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, 100 miles away from where this went down. But I do think that we should take this opportunity to call for a reduction in the ridiculous and inflammatory political rhetoric coming from too many corners of our politics.
That's J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, running mate for Donald Trump, running for vice president of the United States. And his comments, I think, were apt and appropriate, right? He says we have to cool this rhetoric coming from too many ends of our political spectrum. He didn't say the left. He didn't say the right. He didn't say anything. He said from anywhere. Stop it. And I think that's the right way to approach it. I will go ahead and say the majority of this stuff comes from the left. And it's disgusting, and we should stop it. And it needs to be stopped. But we need to call it out as we see it. Anyway, folks, I want to get your thoughts on this and more. You've heard a lot of clips of audio. You already know what's going on. You guys are one of the smartest audiences out there, and I want to get your thoughts on this stuff. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with your calls. I want to go to the phones here, and then we're going to play some audio for you. Apparently, to the chagrin of many, illegal aliens are actually getting registered to vote, quote unquote, accidentally. But first, your calls. Let's see. Where do we go? I want to go to Lansing, Michigan, WILS, and check in with Ken. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Rich. Great show as always, my friend.
Thank you, brother.
This thing we call the Secret Service is the epitome of incompetence. I can't believe that what happened in Pennsylvania began with Rich. You and me and two of your cousins and two of mine could have provided better security at that event. And how two FBI agents, trained law enforcement professionals, lost a 20-year-old snot kid in a crowd. I will never believe that. I just will never believe they hire some pretty bad people there at the FBI. But Donald Trump is something else. They don't want that man in the White House because they love the power grab that they got, and they'll go back to Europe and do all the crap, the Green Deal crap with them people over there. It's just a crazy thing, man. They're spending all kinds of money with these Harris commercials, and she's such a liar. How they fact-checked Donald Trump in that debate and didn't fact check her one damn time. Then after the debate, the green room was full of 100 reporters wanting to ask questions and stuff. Donald walked right back there like he was going to a picnic. She fled that building quicker than a house on fire. But that's all I got to say, Rich. I'll let some other people get on. We love your show, brother.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you, brother. I really do. Ken in Lansing, Michigan on WILS. Thank you. And I just to respond quickly, I think you're right. I think that I don't think the Secret Service is incompetent, but I think that they're compromised, and there are elements within that aren't focused the way they need to be. And thank God for the ones that are, the ones that are surrounding Trump that are, on their game. And I think some of the larger circle is where the issue is. But we put each of us, right? Not just Trump, each of us every day, we put our lives in God's hands. Every day, every time we get behind the wheel, every time we cross the street, every time we go to New York City, right? And I think no matter what we do, there's a risk for us, and for him, the risk is that much bigger. So thank God for God. And we continue. Let's go to my buddy Gil in Manila, Philippines, streaming us on richvaldez.com. Gil, how are you, sir?
Yes, Rich. I called because my family and I will be leaving for a couple of weeks. We're making the arrangements to go back to the States.
Nice.
And we're going to be sick. Yeah, well, we'll be going back in November, but we're making arrangements, and we're going back to where my wife is from to say goodbye to her relatives. And but anyhow, the internet connections and the telephone connections there are not very good.
In the United States?
But no, we're going in the Philippines. It's in the jungle. It's,
I thought you said you were coming to the United States.
It looks like something. Well, we'll be going to the United States in November.
I gotcha. But between now and then, you're going to say bye to her family, and they're out in the boonies. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, you understand. Filipinos are very family oriented.
Of course.
But anyhow, in the future, I will tell you why Puerto Ricans love Donald Trump so much. But secondly, I have one very, very quick joke. It's because of Springfield, Ohio, why they're covering this up.
Before you get into it, the music's going to cut you off, Gil. Hang on, and I'll try and come right back to you. Gil in Manila, Philippines. Thank you, sir, and Godspeed on your trip. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're coming to your calls and more straight ahead. And what's going on with illegal aliens getting registered to vote by the DMV? You're not going to believe this one, or maybe you will. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
America at Night, your home for the best election coverage. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
3,000 registered voters in Alabama just got booted from the state voter rolls. That's after the Secretary of State, Wes Allen, ordered the removal of all non-citizens who were registered. But how did non-citizens get registered in the first place? WAFF 48's Nick Ballinger spoke to the Secretary of State to get to the bottom of this story. Nick?
Yeah, Margo, when I asked Secretary Allen how these people got registered to vote in the first place, he couldn't give me a clear answer just yet, saying it was still being investigated.
So there you have it, a report from WAFF that 3,000 illegal aliens were just found to have been registered to vote in Alabama. But that wasn't it. This is also happening in Oregon. Commentator Ashley Sinclair went on social media to sound the alarm on that. Listen to this.
I think that's crazy, and you think Democrats aren't just trying to create a voting bloc out of these illegal immigrants. Think again. New York City not only proposed, but passed a bill which would grant illegal immigrants, non-citizens, the right to vote in local elections. Fortunately, that absurd bill was shot down by a superior court in New York because it was unconstitutional. But New York City is the norm, not the exception for blue cities. Democrat-run cities across America are attempting to do the very same thing as New York. The fact of the matter is that Democrats don't care about illegal immigrants, no matter what sob story they tell you. All they care about is votes and creating a larger voting bloc.
And this is happening all over the place. The Oregon DMV recently admitted to registering at least hundreds of non-citizens to vote since at least 2021. And they said this is due to errors in its automatic voter registration initiative. How about that? I know everybody's been freaking out about that. Right? The Oregon DMV additionally said that every registered voter is sent ballots by mail. The audit's still ongoing, and more illegal registrations are expected to be found. The Oregon Secretary of State is defending the auto registration system, saying that the DMV has announced in the past that it's impossible for non-citizens to be registered in its system. Just because they've announced it doesn't mean it's true. It happened already. So, meanwhile, left-wing activists and liberals are responding to this revelation, saying that the numbers are so small out of the 3 million registered voters that it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter anyway. Others argue for non-citizens to be given their full voting rights since they live there, and that's how it always goes. Right? It's never about, hey, let's stick to what's going on. Citizens get to vote. Nope. They want to change the rules and bend the rules. So I want to get your calls, your thoughts on Trump, on this voting stuff. This is an absolute fiasco. Let's go to Indiana, Bedford, Indiana. Excuse me? Oh, Gil, yes. Before I go to Indiana, let me finish with Gil. Gil had a joke for us. Gil in Manila, Philippines. Go right ahead.
Okay, this is a quick one. This is about Springfield, Ohio, and the reason some of the officials are covering it up because they say they have to look at the bright side because of the Haitians and their dietary habits. They're saving a lot of tax money. They no longer have to support an animal shelter. So,
you know what I saw? I saw this comedian that's based out of Miami, Cuban guy, funny guy, on Instagram. And his name is Mario something or other, I think. And he shows a picture of these, I don't know, they look like peacocks. And they were all over this house. There was like 20 of them, 10 of them on the roof, 10 on the front lawn. And he was like, listen, I know how to fix this problem for everybody. Just bring in these migrants that they're talking about over there, and voila, they get to eat. We get no birds. Win-win. It was very funny. But I'm with you, Gil. That is, it was funny. I appreciate the humor in it. Gil, I want to thank you for that, and have a great trip.
Okay.
Gil, you there? Did I lose you? I think we lost him. All right. Well, thank you, Gil. Anyway, now we'll go to Bedford, Indiana, and check in with Sarah on WBIW. Sarah, go right ahead.
Hey, well, two things. First off, the more they try to kill Trump, the more of a hero they make to him, so I think it's starting to backfire on them. Mm-hmm. Secondly, you were mentioning that Puerto Rico has a lot of conservatives, and I would be really interested if maybe you could have a guest on from Puerto Rican politics, because I never knew that, and I grew up in New York, but I didn't realize that Puerto Rico itself often votes Republican, so I'd love to hear more about that.
Will do. Well, I'll give you a little tidbit. So there's this thing, and it's called shadow government, and it's not what you're thinking, like deep state. It's like an actual legal entity called a shadow government that exists in U.S. territories, where they have a government in place just in case they ever get fully functioning ability. So like Guam, American Samoa, places like that, Puerto Rico, they have members of Congress and how many they would have, right? So right now, Puerto Rico has one resident commissioner that it's a non-voting member of the United States Congress. And the current commissioner is a Republican, Jennifer Gonzalez, and has been for a while. And these are the things that I take into account when I look at these things. But the point I wanted to make was one of the delegates for Congress, for the United States Congress shadow government, that's something that only exists outside of a state, is Elizabeth Torres. And I did interview her when we broadcasted the show live from CPAC, or I guess that wasn't this year. This year we did it in Hungary. It was when it was in D.C., so it was last year. And you can find that if you search for my name and her name. But I was thinking of bringing her back just because she's such a fantastic person to speak with. And very, very, very conservative. Big activist when it comes to just, limited government, very we the people oriented. And thanks for that advice, because I was looking for the right angle to bring her back in. And we'll definitely be reaching out to her. I think you'll be really impressed. She has great insight. And I appreciate that. Now, Sarah, did you want to make a comment about something else?
No, just I just God bless Trump. And like I say, the more they go after him, I think this is going to backfire on the left, because it's really obvious that they're letting all these, inciting these nuts to go after him, and they're just kind of showing their hand in a way that they just never don't intend to let him take office, even if he's dutifully elected, that they'll stop at nothing, So in some way, the silver lining of this is that this may rally more people to Trump by virtue that it seems like everybody's pulling out the stops, even to the point of killing him, to keep him from running or even winning.
I think you're right. And you know what I think is also interesting here is that every time they've been so heavy-handed against Trump, it has backfired. And the polls have proven it. He raises an incredible amount of money. He, does well with polls in the upcoming days. And it just happens every single time. And I think this is going to be no different. And last time, I remember people pulling me to the side, Democrats, people that disagreed with me vehemently were like, you know what? I might even vote for your guy because what they're doing is wrong. That was the sentiment last time around, but that was obviously more severe with, multiple shots, and it was quite dramatic. This one, not as televised and not as dramatic, but adding insult to injury and piling on for sure. And I think you're right. I think it backfires, and it only helps Trump. Sarah in Bedford, Indiana, WBIW, thank you for your call. Folks, we pause right here. We come right back. The rest of your calls and more. Daytona Beach, Florida, Vero Beach, Florida, Salem, Arkansas, Virginia, WNIS, Boise, Idaho, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who, again, will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We are a country of immigrants, and the demonization of any group of people, whether it's black folk and saying, you know what, we need to go out and make sure that officers have immunity to just go ahead and kill them criminally, or whether we're talking about those that he says, oh, all of the Hispanics that are coming in, they're going to rape your children. Listen, the problem isn't the people coming in. The problem is this guy and his people here that are doing the bomb threats throughout our country. Domestic terrorism is a real thing, and he is the guy that stokes it.
This couldn't be further from the truth. Donald Trump has never said Hispanics are going to rape your children. He said that these illegal gang members that are coming out of prisons in Venezuela specifically are going to do it. It wasn't a blanket statement. It was a specific statement, and I think she knows that. And if she doesn't, she shouldn't be in Congress if she can't figure out the distinction between the two. What else? She's saying that domestic terrorism is a real thing. Obviously, when you have this 50-year-old white guy that has some half blue hair, this guy Ryan Routh, big Harris Biden supporter, big Ukraine supporter, flying all over the world, arrested for weapons of mass destruction. I think he's got 4 felony arrests and over 100 arrests in general. As I read somewhere, it could be wrong, but that's what I read. And when she says domestic terrorism is a real thing, yeah, you bet. When this guy's there with a ballistic shield, an AK-47 with the serial number filed off, pointing it at the former president and current candidate, this crazy Democrat trying to kill El Trompito, You tell me who's the domestic terrorist. He is, not Trump. Domestic terrorism is a real thing. And the guy that stokes it, that's Jasmine Crockett. Prove me wrong. We need to invite her on the program. If you can hear me or any of your people hear me, you're welcome to come on anytime. I'll stop the presses just to have you on. And I'm going to make sure our team sends you a formal request tomorrow because you're out of control, lady. Really, out of control. Unbelievable. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on this and more. Let's hit the phones again. Let's go to Bob in Daytona Beach, Florida, WNDB. Bob, go right ahead.
Thank you, Rich. I'm a registered voter, and I'm voting for Donald Trump. President Trump is a fighter, and he's fearless. And so are you, Rich.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Your calm and courage is noted by all who hear you. As for myself, this election has me emotionally spooked. I got nowhere to run to.
I want to tell you something, Bob. I think that this courage that you see in Trump and others, I think you need to find it within yourself. And I know you have it. We all have to have it. You know, every now and again, I'll talk about God or things that are bigger than everything. And you got to remember that stuff. You really do. We've been through 8 years of Obama. Trust me, we can get through this. Trust me. We'll get through this. We just got through almost 4 years of Biden and a little bit of Harris. We're going to be okay. Americans aren't stupid. I think Americans are going to do the right thing. I think we have to work extremely hard. We have to be encouraged by the things that are encouraging, you know, by a candidate that isn't spooked. I think about this, right? And I think, man, look at Donald Trump. Guy's got, you know, plenty of money. He's losing a lot by doing this, but he's got plenty of money. He lives the life a lot of people want to live. You know, many people, I would say. I think there's some people that love a simple life. Not me. I would love that life. And he doesn't choose to run away from this job. He runs toward it. There's bullets flying at him, and he runs toward it. He does more rallies. He almost got killed at a rally. He does more rallies. He's still golfing. He's still out there. You got to look at the balls of steel on this guy and say, you know what? If this guy's not afraid, who am I to be afraid? We're all allowed to be concerned. But I would say none of us has a right to be afraid more than Trump. Here's the guy that if he's in the wrong place at the wrong time with his kid, his young son, or his older son, his middle son, with his daughter, his grandchildren, his wife, they're all in danger. I'm not in that position, at least not at that level, and neither are you. So we need to be encouraged and be fearless as well and say, you know what, come what may, come what may. We got to stand on something, right? The old saying, you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. And the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people like you and me and all of us listening to sit here and do nothing. So it's time for us to do something, to have that courage, to not be cowed by the radical left, to not be cowed by liars at ABC News, to not be cowed by inept or compromised individuals within law enforcement or within somewhere that are letting people know to have MSNBC come to this golf course at this time on this day, or have the New York Times come to this rally or that rally. Whatever the case is, these people can't outsmart God. And that's where I'm at this point. And if you don't think God has a role in being his number one Secret Service guy, I've got news for you. They've proven time and again that they know how to drop a ball, yet Trump's still here. What does that tell you? It tells me the big man's in charge. Bob in Daytona Beach, be encouraged, my brother. Godspeed to you, and I appreciate your kind words. Folks, Rich Valdez coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, it's the speed round, so be sharp and fast and to the point. Let's go to Keith calling us from Southeastern Virginia, WNIS. Keith, go right ahead.
Thank you, Rich. Happy Constitution Day in the Eastern Time Zone.
Amen
and
to
everybody else tomorrow, September 17th. And would you please, and Mark Levin, ask President Trump to make the following PSA to the whole country, to please ask everybody to read the Constitution and do so before you vote, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land that governs the government, and everybody who gets elected is supposed to take an oath to support and defend and comply with the Constitution. And Article 4, Section 4 guarantees to every state in the Union a Republican form of government and protection against invasion. So if he could include those points, I think would make a great PSA.
Well, I think you just did it, and you did a great job of doing it, Keith. I want to thank you for that, WNIS, and I wish you a very happy Constitution Day as well. Excellent points. Excellent points. Everybody should read it. I keep one on the wall right next to me, and I have two pocket-sized ones that are right next to me as well for reference, because you never know, right? You need those, and I make sure my kids have them. I first read it in the 5th grade, thanks to New York City Public Schools. They forced me to read this thing. I didn't want to read it, but I did, and I'm so glad that I did. And Keith, again, thank you for the call. Let's go to Vero Beach, Florida, WTTB. Check in with John. John, go right ahead quickly.
Yes, hi, Rich. Thank you so much for doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I have a, 3-part question. It's going to be real quick. Are the Marxist so-called, air quotes, Dems, encouraging violence, assassination, acting in concert with, colluding with, and or in furtherance of assassination attempts on the life of President Trump and his family? ? Question number 2. Whatever happened to the U.S. RICO statutes?
Obviously they were using those against Trump in Georgia, right? As for the first part, I think whether it's wittingly or unwittingly, the stuff that we're seeing happen against Trump is no question the result of stupidity that's flying out of the mouths of Democrats. When you have these clips like the one we played where we need to put a bullet in this guy's head, I don't believe that man really meant that. But when you are so flippant with that, and if he did, then we have a problem. And when you are so flippant with your words that way, I don't say that. And listen, I beat people up all day. I make up funny names for people. I've never said we got to put a bullet in somebody's head, because I don't believe that. Right? I'm the first one to say I want to debate these people. I want to get along with them. I want to coexist with them, because that's life. And that's exactly what we have to do. But I'm with you. As far as RICO goes, look, what we need are real patriots in law enforcement and in the judiciary and in the U.S. Attorney's Office that'll actually bring these cases, prosecute them, and go against these people. Otherwise, it's a lost cause. John in Vero Beach, thank you for your call. Shout out to WTTB. Boise, KBFI, shout out to you guys. Salem, Arkansas, KSAR, and everybody else. Thanks for tuning in. Hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.